Hey everybody, Brandon Kaywell, Principal with Advisor Growth Strategies here with our sixth installment of the 20 for 20 Things Advisor Growth Learned or Validated in the year 2020. That'll help hopefully help everybody listening plan for the year 2021 and beyond. Talked about everything from consolidation in the industry to why the puck's moving to independence to managing P&Ls and talent and the like. And this will be the only episode that I double down on a topic, which will be M&A. Last video talked about some of the big trends we're spotting in M&A, and today I want to go a little bit deeper into M&A and some of the implications going forward for the independent wealth management community, and in particular three things. The first being that M&A is here to stay, and really the industry continues to pick up because demand is still there to want to go out and acquire, and the supply seems to be somewhat keeping pace, although there is an imbalance there. The reality, though, is that 2020 taught us that point number one is that there is a big difference between building an advisory platform, which we see with acquisition brands in the space, centralized process, technology, great talent, the ability to scale operations, service, investment management, and the like, and advisory practices where maybe you're focusing on more of a niche, or maybe running it in a more of a lifestyle manner. And this has been talked about for years, the difference between a business and a practice, or any way you want to term it. But for the purposes of this conversation, it's really affecting the M&A environment. And the reason why, as I talked about last time, more capital options than ever, more investors chasing the space. And the majority of those investors are chasing platforms versus practices. And we see this in the valuation data in the space, where there's a big difference in the industry between, hey, valuations are rising, yes, but are they rising the same way for everyone? No. So when you really look at the largest firms in the space, think firms over $1 billion in AUM with good infrastructure and growth prospects, are a lot of times commanding 50-100% or more on a valuation multiple basis than their smaller peers, or even the average in the industry. And the reason for that is platforms are commanding premiums for investors to back, to go into both organic new markets, but also looking at the inorganic potential, or becoming an acquirer themselves. So we're seeing the acquisition brands in the space, those that are doing multiple per year, that numbers going up, more firms participating because they are getting investments and they're getting access to capital because they've built the platform. And that's going to take me to point number two, which is the successful acquirers in the space have really demonstrated that these are long-term transactions, right? What I mean by that is the pandemic even highlighted this. We had this disruption in the market. What M&A didn't stop, it paused, but it's been keeping up. Well, why is that? Well, a lot of these firms are leading with platforms, with capital, with demand, and they're leading with their infrastructure in these conversations to be able to articulate what happens to clients, what happens to the team, what happens to the founders. But a lot of times the whole sell and go away is not really the idea for a lot of these transactions. Instead, it's about how do we come together and have more success through the transaction than we did before. And I think the pandemic has really highlighted that, because if it was a simple financial equation, deals would have stopped, right? Because there was too much uncertainty in the financial markets in the beginning and middle part of the year due to the pandemic. And then they would have maybe slowly come back. But a lot of these firms didn't back off of their acquisition thesis, because they can lead with their platform, their scale, and they can solve a need out there in the space. And we expect that to see that evolve more and more, where more capital coming into the space, continuing the demand for acquisitions. We have a highly fragmented industry in independent wealth, and continuing to want to lead with platform strength and scale to be able to progress down the M&A fold. So we don't expect valuations to necessarily move around all that much, meaning downward. We expect maybe some more acuteness at the top of the market, because there's not a lot of those firms who've built really strong platforms, and more of those are needed to continue to progress the industry forward. This will lead into my third topic, which is what did the pandemic teach us about platforms themselves, and what did the pandemic teach us about the growth characteristics of the space? The first thing it taught us is that, as I mentioned before, the pandemic shined a big spotlight on any gaps that you might have had in your platform. but more firms are coming to the conclusion that co-opetition, looking for outsourcing options, the rise of the platforms in the space, affiliating outsourcing options, or joining other firms to solve key structural needs is more and more acceptable. When we did our survey at the beginning of the year, more firms were looking, there was an increase in firms that were looking to outsource things that weren't necessarily core competencies of their business. And a lot of times it's leading to M&A as well, where if someone's already built the platform and has a really strong offering that can complement what you're doing, maybe M&A is the right path. And what 2020 taught us is that independence is a fantastic thing. Being fully independent isn't always the best path for a lot of firms that are out there, although for some it is. And that's the beauty of this industry, is we're going to continue to see fierce entrepreneurs make that choice to either want to stay independent or stay completely independent and not affiliate with anybody, or do a little bit of something in between. So that is something that's going to be really important as we go forward and evolve the industry, because M&A is not required to stay relevant and it's not required to compete. But remaining solely autonomous or remaining autonomous may not be the best strategic solution for everybody, and 2020 has really highlighted that need in the space. And again, I think for us, it's going to speak to the demographic of potential M&A participants going forward. It won't just be about liquidity, it won't just be about succession, but it will be about other things to try to improve the experience for the clients, the lives of your team, and opportunities for your team, and then in a lot of ways looking at how the founding owners get their best possible outcome long term. So join me for my next, I'm going to wrap it up in our next video series, talk about what's ahead and why things are looking very, very bright for the RIA industry and the independent wealth management community. And have a happy holidays, and we'll talk again soon.